In competitive singles, and especially the current generation of Scarlet and Violet Gen 9, where we have many formats such as this video's focus on Gen 9 OU, or VGC or National Decks, minus the RNG, has a fairly well-designed system for success. To be successful in any game on the ladder, you have to put in a well-thought and well-designed team. All 6 Pokemon must serve a purpose of use and synergize well in order to make up for each Pokemon's purposes to counteract each other's weaknesses and help set up or highlight a strength in offense as well as defense. This allows you to beat your opponent from just your skill alone, and set of Pokemon such as, say, an Alola to work for a defensive, or you want to use an Iron Valiant set for an offensive. So it's pretty safe to say that each Pokemon has a well-thought, well-planned, well-executed design with absolutely no real obscene design flaws. What the fuck is that?
Behold the king of kings. On your knees, darling.
Kingambit is by far one of the most controversial Pokemon in Gen 9 OU, apart from such like Hero. Having a suspect test that was fairly divisive amongst the Smoker Messiahs and Prophets, and probably having one of the most few decently interesting evolution conditions in the game. Having a 135 base attack, great stab coverage, and a bulk profile that makes him look like a buff dude in that gym that you really want to ask tips for, but are too intimidated. With this near all-rounder stat spread, it's not really surprising that Gen 9 OU usage right now is 27.32% and at 20.27% usage in VGC Regulation H at the time of this video being dropped. But what even makes Kingambit so good? Besides his arguably sharp jawline and his start fucking sitting position, what is so good about this Darksteel type monster on the ladder? Looking at Kingambit in a nutshell doesn't do the Emperor of Guessing justice, so I will go in further depth for his majesty. The stats are 100 base health, 135 base attack, 120 defense, 50 special attack, 85 special defense, and 50 speed, making most serious ladder sets mostly physical to take advantage of his high attack stat. His widespread range of moves and very good stab options are also useful in sets that take people by surprise, with such things as low kick to take care of opposing fraud gambits, Zen headbutt if you're really that paranoid about fighting types kicking your ass, and mostly Terra Blast to take coverage options to another meaning of too many options. But the most infamous part of the king himself is his signature ability, Supreme Overlord, an ability that adds 10% attack boost with every single teammate that is down, meaning at max, if you times it by 5, you can reach 50% boost and completely sweep teams with just a single sword stance and maybe a couple moves if you're really that impatient. His useful ability, well, his other useful ability is Defiant, which is less used, but is somewhat seen a little bit on the lower ladder, where people just want to make the Emperor of Guessing into just one who sees all, flipping the formula and making Lando T's Intimidates look like a puppy staring at you. Kingambit can run a multitude of sets, ranging from fast offense with full investment on speed, attack, and defense, throwing in more offensive terrors such as Dark or Fighting, and slapping on an air balloon if you really feel like grinding that Gliscor's gears, or maybe run Black Glasses for that most sucker punching and kowtow cleaving, and possibly even getting a plus 10 swag stat. Another set seen is Bulky Offense, which is just to rub in your face just how solid his bulk is and how metallically muscular he is. This set usually is run with Terra Fairy or Flying to cover ground, fighting or opposing Kingambit's moves, and has a usual item of Leftovers, just to really rub in the feeling of hopelessness when you demolish your opponent. For moves, you mostly see the same old Swords Dance, Kowtow, Sucker Punch, but you have a pick between Iron Head with dealing for opposing Terra Fairy, Set Gambits, or Terra Blast to really add the extra Soul Shaker for goons like Papa Tusker, Dragonite, and Terra options are usually the makes difference in what you pick. But some people like to run Terra Fire as well for offensive sets, just to be a little extra annoying to people who inflict burns such as Moltres and give yourself a resistance to any fire move that would have otherwise scorched your kingly ass. But in a true summary of the king, he rules over with two things that I like to call conditions. The first condition being the 50-50, and the second condition being the comeback. So let me kick this off by introducing you to the 50-50 condition. A 50-50 in a fighting game is when a player has a mix-up with multiple different attacks, making the opponent have to guess which move will be used. An example will be something like Sub-Zero's jump in 50-50 in MK11, with his axe overhead or a low kick, which the opponent has to guess and react to which one so that they won't get punished. In this case, Kingambit's options would be like its Swords Dance boosted Kowtow Cleaver or Sucker Punch. These two options usually make or break a game, and are typically the flip of the entire dynamic of a straightforward 1-6 or to a 1-1, where you would have to guess to win. This is all thanks to Kingambit's combo of bulk and offensive powers, and having the chance to sweep the winning team just by pressing these two moves a couple of times, or maybe a terror for the extra push. To add on to the 50-50, you now have to read Kingambit's terror. Usually this is countered by simply pulling out a super effective type Pokemon to trick Kingambit into terrestrializing. But a good Sucker Punch or Balls of Fire hard read will completely shift that counter into fodder for the King's Warpath. Since Gen9 OU has no open team sheets, players have to guess a multitude of things before the game even starts. One of it is, well, is it bulky or straight offensive? 2. Is it a running low kick, Iron Head, or Terror Blast? Or 3. What the fuck is the Terror? This mad amount of guessing is why, during its suspect testing last year, many pro band players crowded together to say that Kingambit turns the game from "I'm winning" to "Holy shit, Kingambit" in a minute of single mouse click. This is seen from a few World Cup games during 2023, as it usually came down to the Sucker Punch 50-50, making it a lot of people feel like the endgame was too much of a coin flip rather than a skillful execution of a comeback. Anyway, speaking of comeback, back to the fighting game analogy. In Marvel vs. Capcom, there was a comeback mechanic that completely warped the endgame in a matter of seconds. This mechanic was known as X Factor, as X Factor, in a simple demonstration, does this. Pause. Do you see this? Did you just see 3 whole fucking characters get wiped off the screen because of one character? This is the exact same with Kingambit, as his entire shtick is his 50-50 being a threat due to his enabler of an ability, that being Supreme Overlord. Supreme Overlord pretty much means that, at the point where you could have won, this douche with a massive silver hairline could press a couple buttons that usually would do nothing to change Kingambit into a walking FGM 148 Javelin, all because of a massive 50% boost from either being reckless or from being outplayed. Losing 5 of your team trades a well-balanced, organized team for a simple 2K22 Tunguska anti-aircraft gun. And if you think that's fair, you might just be a slight bit of a psychopath. Pretty much, the entire shtick is that if Kingambit is the last Pokemon you have on your team, you have a fighting chance to completely wipe your opponent's team with enough hard reads, conditioning, and a whole lot of... Yeah, that's pretty much it. That's why Kingambit is the comeback king. In a nutshell, he uses his ability to turn the entire game against the opponent, punishing their punish of the Unamons, and sending the rest of their team into the big Poké Center in the sky. With this video runtime coming to an end, I would like to put my own thoughts and commentary from my experience, just general additions to the Kingambit stuff. I think Kingambit is actually really good for Gen9 OU's metagame. I know, shocker, right? But the power-crept roster of Gen9 OU with such beam and such as Tusk, Zamazenta, Roaring Moon, Great Neck, Goldango, Kyurem, and Darkrai, just to name a few, have been let loose into the OU ladder and have dominated quite frequently from the raw offense and speed, so Kingambit fits right in, and he doesn't really need to do anything, because he doesn't exceed the OU ladder. From low ladder to high ladder, he's pretty good, and overall, he works perfectly to check these superpowered mons, and has some counterplay with people bringing in such things like Chestnut from RU to duke it out with the king himself, so it might help to bring more obscure options to the ladder, and it makes things more interesting, to be honest. So, with this insane list of Gen9 OU power creep, the raw offense of whole teams that can bring a shutdown to endgame in a matter of moves, I think it's right that we need something to roll over it, and I think Gen9 OU needs his king.